Everything you need to know to bet the MLB board tonight is coming your way over the next 20, 30 minutes. That's what we do here on First Pitch. Wager Talk TV. I'm your host, Dan Alexander. And joining me for another early edition, another terrific crew on a Thursday, Brian Power, Eric Pauly, and Jimmy Adams. If you want your football fix, definitely make sure you're subscribed here. Hit the little like button, but also check all three of these guys out. Eric Pauly with the Gold Sheet, Jimmy Adams, and Brian Power on wagertalk.com. They'll get you ready to go for football. Just ask the records. All right, Bri, I say we get into what's going on the diamond and start off with the Pirates and the Cubs. It was a 13-7 win yesterday for the Pirates. So is it bounce back time? Does it mean that the Cubs now get one by margin? How are you looking to bet it?
Yeah, it's been a wild series, Dan. Cubs take the opener 14-1, then they lose 11-7 last night. So certainly, there's been scoring in bunches at Wrigley, but overall, you look at the Cubs, been a disappointing run of late. They dropped 9 of 12 overall. They're 2-3 the last 5 games, which doesn't sound horrible, but they face the Rockies and Pirates, who are 2 teams out of contention. And the thing is, the Cubs cannot afford to be dropping many more games down the home stretch. They are holding on currently to that third wild card spot in the National League, but 2 teams, Miami and Cincinnati, are within a game of them. The Giants, who are falling off, they're still in contention. The Padres somehow still alive as well, although it would take a miracle for them. But the bottom line is there should be a real sense of urgency here from the home team at Wrigley tonight. And the thing is, save for last night, the Cubs have had the Pirates number this season, 10-2 head-to-head, and they've scored 7 or more runs in 9 of those games, including last night, even though they lost. And I think there's a good chance the home team puts up a big number again tonight, guys, because starting for Pittsburgh's Johan Oviedo, he has a 5.11 ERA his last 3 starts, but even worse is a 2.35 whip. Over those last 3 starts, he's given up 17 hits and walked 12 batters in just 12 and a third innings. That is not good, putting a lot of guys on base. So the Cubs, we know they could score, 3rd most runs in the NL. They actually have the 3rd best run differential in the NL, behind only the Braves and Dodgers, obviously. And while Kyle Hendricks is not having a great September by any stretch, he has looked good in both of his starts versus Pittsburgh this season. He's allowed just 5 runs in 12 innings. 2 of those runs were unearned, by the way, and only 8 hits. Hendricks is a pretty good whip overall, 1.17 on the year. And I think the Cubs are going to roll here. By the time we all woke up this morning, this line had moved heavily in their direction. Pittsburgh, the thing is, real cluster luck yesterday. They had a 7-run inning. That's not going to happen again tonight. In fact, yesterday was just the 2nd game since early June where the Pirates finished a game with double-digit runs, and you talk about how unlikely a 7-run inning is for them. This month, before last night, there was only 1 game where they'd scored more than 7 runs. Going back to the end of April, the Bucks are 1-4 after scoring 10 or more runs the previous game. Since the line's a little juicy, Dan, I would not blame anyone for going run line here with the Cubs. The -1.5 is +125 most places, so that is probably your best bet in at least the best value in this NL Central game.
Yeah, laying it and getting some plus money, man. You don't have to tell me twice. I like the breakdown there from our man Brian Power. Check him out at wagertalk.com. And you got any run line plays that you like? Maybe are you laying a run and a half? Let us know in the comments below. We want to hear it. Eric Pauly is with me. We're going to be doing a Gold Sheet preview for NFL coming up. If you want to get ready for Thursday Night Football, that's also right here on the Wager Talk TV YouTube channel. So make sure you're liked and subscribed here. But EP, man, big game breakdown. I know that sometimes in the comments, people joke we use that term loosely. Detroit and Oakland is what I think of when I hear the words big game. So I'm wondering for you, brother, what are you looking to bet in this game? Because I know you love ISOing in on some of these pitcher props.
Yeah, if you're a casual MLB fan or you've been betting MLB your whole life and you stick into sides, totals, money lines, and you never really got into the prop market, if you also just like sweating bets, please try betting the under on strikeouts for any pitcher. If you find an edge, obviously bet within your limits, but it is one of the most stressful, tense, but relieving and fun sweats you could possibly have on betting baseball. If you're in it for the thrill and not overextending your bankroll, I would definitely look at some of these. And this one is an especially ugly one because it is a fade, unfortunately, of Tariq Skubal, one of the best pitchers in the MLB since he's come back from injury in terms of striking batters out. And I will preface this by saying this is a game that goes on at 9 p.m. Eastern, and lineups are not out. And this is a lineup-dependent play. So if the Oakland Athletics decide to put out 8 righties in their batting order today, this is not going to be a play. This line's actually going to shoot up. The reason why I like the under for Skubal, lineup dependent, is if the Oakland A's stack lefties against Skubal, he has had a very hard time ringing up lefties this season. And by hard time, I mean one of the worst in baseball for somebody who is one of the premier strikeout pitchers in baseball. Just a 9.5% K rate against left-handed batters this season. Now, teams haven't been stacking a bunch of lefties against him because his batting average against is in the low ones with left-handed batters, but his FIP and xFIP are both in the mid fours. So it's kind of like a little bit of a reverse split there where he cannot get the strikeouts on the lefties, and teams have been reluctant to put lefties against him, but that actually might be a better strategy moving forward. So again, Oakland A's, one of the worst teams in baseball, if not the worst, one of the higher strikeout teams in baseball. But considering the matchup in terms of lefty on lefty, that has been something that's been terrible for Skubal all season long in recording those strikeouts. And Oakland last night in a matchup, they had 5 lefties in their batting order to have the left-handed depth on their team, albeit maybe not the big name lefties you want to see, but they have those left-handed batters that they put out 5, 6, or 7 in this lineup today, and that will decrease the amount of strikeouts Skubal will get. So lineup dependent. You see Oakland A's lineup littered with lefties tonight. I would look at the under for Skubal's K prop tonight.
Going under on Skubal and getting some plus money. Doing it will be interesting since we're recording here early to see if that ends up closer to even money. So grab it while you can get it. Skubal under the 6.5 Ks. All right, Jimmy Adams peeled us away from his 5-0 college football record to talk a little baseball this morning. We appreciate it, brother. You want to take a look at this Rays and Angels game as the rubber match is going down today. Rays, they got Eflin on the mound. They're looking for payback. How do you think you're going to be betting this?
Yeah, so the Rays would obviously love to capture the AL East crown, right, and avoid that wild card berth. Easier said than done with an Orioles squad that just seems to continue to win every night. They've literally got players in the clubhouse watching the O's games, checking on them. So at least they care. They definitely care, and they shouldn't have much trouble picking up a win in the series finale Thursday. The Angels have lost 6 of 7 behind some really terrible offensive production. Sure, they got a win yesterday, but the team also struck out 19 times, and they had been outscored 38-13 prior to yesterday during the losing streak. Griffin Canning, look, he hasn't been terrible, but he does struggle in some of those key analytical categories that I look for. For instance, he has a very high hard hit percentage and a very high hard hit rate. So those are categories that a good hitting team like the Rays will take advantage of. Zach Eflin has been solid all year long for Tampa. I don't know that I'd categorize him as elite, but he's a 3 earned run guy on a pretty consistent basis. And off a gem of a performance, he allowed just 1 run over 7 innings in his last start against those aforementioned red-hot Orioles. We know Shohei Ohtani has been shut down for the season. He just underwent surgery. We'll see what happens with him. Just not a lot of incentive for this Angels club right now. I don't know how motivated they'll be. Tampa will be motivated in this game. Obviously, you need to take the run line, but that's the way I'd recommend it. Rays run line for the BGB.
Rays run line, and I think, guys, it's just about time we get into some best bets here and make it nice and easy for me. Don't even have to set up a new game because Brian Power wants to check out the same game. We got thoughts on the side, Bri, but I'm wondering, how are you looking at this total in the Angels and Rays? Looks like it's sitting around 7.5 currently on the Wager Talk live odds screen. So expecting runs in this one?
Well, bettors have been liking the over this entire series. It's easy to understand why. Teams met out in LA last month, over hit all 3 times as the teams combined for at least 13 runs in all 3 games. So here in this series, you were probably a little lucky if you bet the over in the series opener. If you got it at 8, Tampa Bay piled some runs on late, what ended up being a 6-2 win. The number did close 8.5, but as I said, there were 8s wildly available throughout the day there. Yesterday, though, Jimmy touched on it. Another never in doubt over. Angels, though, winning 8-3, and certainly a bit of a shocker. Now, I know there's a pretty strong likelihood based on the money line here that we're only going to get 8 bats from Tampa Bay tonight. They shouldn't have to come up. They should have this thing sewn up going into the 9th inning. But I think there's a really, really strong likelihood they're putting up 5, 6, who knows, 7 runs themselves, which would obviously be great for Jimmy's run line as well, because they're going against Griffin Canning and the Angels bullpen. Jimmy talked about some of Canning's struggles. He's 0-3 his last 3 starts, 4.67 ERA, and the Angels bullpen, generally speaking, stinks. So Tampa Bay, they're a team that puts up over 5 runs per game to begin with at home. They're putting up a big number. Eflin is obviously great, and he's going against an Angels lineup, which is not great. But Rays home games this year, they do average 9.2 runs per game on the season. Angels road games average 9.8 runs per game this season. You could just play Tampa Bay over its team total, but I think, all things considered, this full game total at 7.5, too low. Over 7.5 Angels Rays is my best bet.
Getting some runs there. He's on a 7-8 all-sport run, and he's number 1 over these first 2 weeks in the NFL, an 8-2 record. So make sure you check Brian Power out over at wagertalk.com, and also check out the Power 5. Easy way to never miss it is make sure you hit that little bell. Make sure you're subscribed here, and you'll never miss any of the programs featuring our terrific cappers here at Wager Talk. All right, EP, you already broke down why you love betting these pitcher props so much in baseball. And we got the Mets and my Phillies. And unfortunately, as I look at my notes, looks like you're going to be, it looks like you expect Peterson to be sitting down my Phils today. Is that correct?
Yeah, just strikeouts and winnings don't always correlate. Like yesterday, you had Kyle Brash put up 9 Ks. Astros still ended up winning that game in 2-1. So not
Fair.
fully a fade of the Phils, but David Pearson has been very impressive since becoming a full-time starter with New York. He's covered this number of 5.5 strikeouts in 3 of the last 4 games, and something that I've just really liked about his improvement throughout the season is ever since he's been starting more, like his strikeout per inning has risen. And in the second half of this season, his K rate is a 26% K rate. And in the month of September, in this couple of starts, 31% strikeout rate so far. He is not as matchup dependent as Skubal, but I would like to see, again, the Phillies lineup before. Again, just like a note for anybody who's going to bet strikeouts the rest of this year or heading into next year, you should do your research prior to lineups coming out and basically know who needs more righties in the lineup and needs more lefties. And once that lineup drops, if you have an odds screen with props, you see that those start to move right away. So if you get quick, you can get great value on that line if you see that and do that research beforehand. Digression aside, you got Peterson, who's K and lefties at a 29% clip. Righties at a little bit over a 24% clip, and he is great at inducing whiffs and decent at inducing chases, 51st percentile there. But the real fade here is also on the Phillies. While they are a pretty decent contact team when it comes to facing left-handed pitching, they are pretty whiff and chase heavy. Peterson has like 4 different strikeout pitches. He's not like a one-pitch pony. And looking at the Phillies in the second half of the season, they're 11th in K rate against left-handed pitching. And since the beginning of September, they are 9th in K rate against left-handed pitching. So 5.5 at modest juice is a modest number. And again, I will be checking the lineups here, watching the odds screen for the props to see where this goes. But Peterson is definitely a stronger play and looking like definitely a client play, a lineup depending for him going over 5.5 Ks against the Phillies tonight.
You like breakdowns like that? Check out the Gold Sheet. They are still rocking on MLB, but you can also check out, of course, the football newsletter, one of the best ways to get prepped up for the college football and NFL card. That's Eric Pauly from the Gold Sheet, and you can find it at wt.buzz/GS, going over 5.5 Ks for Peterson of the Mets. All right, Jimmy, you're going to get the final word here, brother. You got 5 percenters rocking tonight on Thursday Night Football and a college football play for Saturday. And again, you can check those out, wt.buzz/JA. You're taking a look at the Brewers and the Cardinals, and the magic number is sitting at 4 for Milwaukee as they're looking to make it 3 straight in their series in St. Louis. You think they're going to be inching closer this evening towards that NL Central title? How are you betting it?
I really do, Dan. Yeah, we're headed to Busch Stadium to fade the 67-win Cardinals. I don't think many people would have believed me if I would have told you that at the beginning of the year. But yet the Cardinals sit in last place, even behind the Pirates in the division. So to say this year has been a disappointment would be a vast understatement. So the Brewers are going to win the NL Central. It's just a matter of time. But they continue to play good baseball. 7-3 last 10, including outscoring St. Louis 15-5 the past 2 games. Miles Mikolas has been a prime fade candidate for the clients and I all season long. I don't see any reason for that to change here. He was knocked around for 5 earned in each of his past 2 starts. Mikolas doesn't strike out anyone. He has a whiff percentage that's as bad as anyone in the league. And I mean that literally. He ranks in the first percentile in whiff percentage, along with several other terrible metrics. We could just run down the entire slate, but we won't. Wade Miley, he's had a great season for the Brewers. He's a guy that Sharps, for most of the season, seemed to want to fade because his analytics weren't the best, at least his FIP. But he's kind of defied the odds here, and he does a really great job of avoiding hard contact from opposing lineups, and that's why I like him here. Milwaukee's won 4 of his past 5 starts. We don't really need to overthink this one. We're getting a great price at around even money. Fade Mikolas, ride the Brew Crew to another victory. Brewers for today's best bet.
Keep it nice and simple. Ride with the Brewers, says our man Jimmy Adams. Eric Pauly on David Peterson over the 5.5 Ks. And our man Brian Power going over in the Angels and Rays game. That's the best bets for the experts. Up below in the comments and let us know what you're eyeing on the MLB card today. And don't forget to continue to watch us here First Pitch through the playoffs. Yes, football is going on. Yes, you got all your Thursday night football games to sweat. You're really going to be sweating the Giants and the 49ers. Come on, folks. Make sure you're cashing in on MLB in the best time of the year to be betting it. Big thanks to our crew there, Jimmy Adams, Eric Pauly, and Brian Power. Check them out at wagertalk.com, and we will be seeing you for a live edition tomorrow of First Pitch. I've been your host, Dan Alexander. Make sure you hit that like button. Give us a little thanks there. Hit that little bell so you're subscribed as well. And you can get all the tools to bet all the sports you love right here at Wager Talk TV.